One of the more general pieces of advice that we're often offered about giving good quality feedback to our students is that we need to make our commentary more thorough and more specific. And this is a really useful starting place because, of course, our commentary does need to be thorough and specific. But what's less helpful about that is it doesn't really give us tips and techniques for how to achieve this. What is the criteria that we're being judged against when we think about work being thorough or specific? Does that mean simply more? Does that mean laser focusing on a particular aspect? Does that mean giving advice on what was good or bad? What is the criteria? And in this tip, I would like to give you one technique that you can use with every comment that you make to make sure that it is perceived to be both thorough and specific. And we'll start off by looking at a comment which is not thorough and not specific. Intuitively, we know this. So you'll be familiar with this sort of comment. You may have given these sorts of comments. You will have certainly received these comments when you've been getting feedback yourself. And the problem with this kind of thing is that it doesn't actually help the student to improve. It starts the process, but it doesn't help the student to see what they can do next, and it doesn't help to really unpack the point that you're making. So it's a quickfire thing. It's a kind of almost like a contents page, but it doesn't actually help the student to improve. And remember, that is the main reason why we're leaving commentary on a student's script. That's the main reason why we're giving feedback, is that we want to help the student to improve. So the technique that we're going to be using today is underpinned by the concept of clean feedback. And when we're thinking about clean feedback, that is evidence-informed feedback. The comments that we've just seen there, that's not evidence-informed. It's a value judgment, really. But evidence-informed means taking evidence, taking examples from the script itself and using that to form the basis of your feedback and explicitly making that clear. And this is something that we use regularly when we're giving feedback to people verbally, but much less so when we're giving feedback written down. And what this helps to do is actually align those mental models. So the feedback that I'm leaving and what the intention behind the feedback that I'm leaving is the same as what the student actually receives. So it's underpinned by that concept of clean feedback. But the actual technique is something that you're going to be really familiar with, and it's something that you will have learned when you were in senior school about how to structure a paragraph. But we're going to use this technique to structure every big comment that you make. And it is the PEEL technique: point, evidence, explain, and link. And what we're often very, very good at doing is leaving lots of points throughout the script. So the initial part here, this is us leaving a point. This is saying, here's what the main issue is. Here's the headline news. And that is a really, really good way of starting a comment. But what we need to then move into is giving evidence. So saying, well, why am I leaving this? What are the actual points that I would like to raise that have been drawn from your work specifically? So this is an example here of how you might add some depth to that, how you might pull out those examples of saying, I've seen what you've tried to do here, I've seen what you've tried to introduce, this is maybe where you've veered off course, or this is where you're doing a really good job, but you're pointing that out using the script and using the words from the script as your basis. Following that, what you're going to do is you're going to explain how this relates to the overall question. How does this relate back to the question, the brief, or the marking criteria? How can you bring that in to help the student to explain, to understand why this is important? So what you've done is you've said, what is the issue? And now you're saying, why is this significant? So using language from the marking criteria, using language for the rubric, and after that, you can then go on to how are you going to improve? And this is where you provide that link. What can we do next time? Or what are some of the resources that we can use to help to unpack them? So it's a really, really simple technique. Now, what it does show, and we're going to talk about this in the next tip, is that you're not going to be leaving hundreds of these across the script, but you're going to be picking out the really key and specific moments that students will most benefit from and using this PEEL technique. And as soon as you do that, even if it's not as long as what I've showed you here, as soon as you do that, it will automatically give that impression of your feedback being thorough and specific.